Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Hallowed Be Thy Game. Ren here, and if you're a fan of RPGs and general discussions about the games we all know and love, then you've definitely found a friend in this channel. I post at least once a week on topics from pickup videos, new releases, to just chatting about the games that have reached hallowed status in my heart. So thank you so much for watching. And today, we're talking about Hades. Let's check it out. To make a long story short, roguelike games looked as if they were decent, but just never for me. I loved Bloodborne, but the Chalice dungeon system always paled in comparison to the unmatched experience that was the main game. Roguelites always felt that they could never rise above just that for me. A storyless game with a challenge, but it just felt slapped together. I owe a lot to the game Dark Souls, as it was the first actual roguelike game to click with me to where I was just willing to dive into the genre. This decision has led me to discover a gaming style that has quickly risen as one of my favorites. Dead Cells had a story, dark and charming in the same breath, but it was always about the gameplay. I have loved such games as Enter the Gungeon, Risk of Rain 2, Demon's Tier, and Riddled Corpse. But they were always just about the gameplay for me personally. Then, looming in the distance, glowing with the fires of hell itself, was Hades. This game. So in order to gush about it, I want to break it down into different components to do a light review and share my exhilarating experiences with this smoldering title. Story. Well, let's start with the basics. You're Zagreus, or Zag, the son of Greek Satan, Hades. And you're trying to escape the underworld to find your mother. This story follows the path of a Greek tragedy. Superb setting. And can I just give a massive kudos to games that take the typical gameplay tropes and account for them with the story premise. What I mean is, Dark Souls accounts for why you keep coming back to life and why there are hollows everywhere. And in Hades, it accounts for why you keep dying over and over again and still emerge from the bloodbath for one more round. The story reminds me of the horrific tale of Prometheus and his avian adversary for you Greek mythology buffs out there. Zagreus has style, Zagreus has class, and that's the gospel truth, my friends. But if you can utilize the mechanics and master your infernal weapons, you too can go the distance. It's hard not to cheer for Zagreus. I really appreciated that the story had such a pure and noble center. Zagreus has the deck stacked against him more than you can realize. However, even in the secluded and banished lands of the dead, there are still boons of hope. As you ascend further and further from the house of Hades, you begin to be contacted by the gods of Olympus, who are there to help their nephew. Each death, each setback helps to unveil the epic of Hades. Gods come and go, and Greek mythology is center stage for the story. Some of my favorite tragedies from mythology are in Hades. You have Achilles, Charon, and the oddly adorable Cerberus, to mention a few. Also, the character designs for the gods are done with care and unique interpretations. Given this is a roguelike, you're expecting repetition. However, the game uses this and spins it on its head to where each run feels unique and the story and dungeons change along with it. The game reacts and changes as Zagreus ascends and progresses through Hades. Every boss that is defeated alters the game's story in some way. In the beginning, the motivations of the gods and Hades himself are veiled, but as Zagreus draws closer to his goal, the story and world develop. As much as I love Dead Cells, I really was only there for the gameplay. Hades has a timeless tale that has become its own modern-day epic. Hercules, Perseus, and now Zagreus. Performance on Switch. Now, I obviously played this game on Switch, but let me say that this sucker runs like a dream. Now, granted, I beat this game in a single try. I died a lot, actually. There was never any major or notable performance issues on the Switch. I only had one instance of slowdown where there was an absurd number of enemies coming after me, and I was pinging shields off them better than Captain America could ever do. This game is the very definition of an optimized port to Switch. The bar is set high with Hades. Button inputs are top-notch and responsive. With a roguelike, the last thing you want is for the game to feel as if it is working against you. But with Hades, this couldn't be farther from the truth. Every death I had was never because of the game's performance. All of the frustration I had was from the pretty boy and his bull. Combat and gameplay. How can I put into words that would do the combat of Hades justice? It's good. Really, really good. Hades may, in fact, be the best playing roguelite I have ever seen. This game is now a titan of the genre. Zagreus has now ascended to the hallowed territory of Mount Olympus in my heart. The combat of this game is what keeps you coming back for more and more. As that bull brings down the axe or the Temple of Styx keeps sticking it to you, whew. When you begin the game, you will have the Stygian Blade, which starts with the most basic of movesets, regular attack, which ends with a thrust, and an AoE that knocks enemies back, and a dash strike for closing the distance and keeping up evasion. This is a great weapon to start with, but if you're just starting the game, definitely experiment with all the infernal arms. They all have a distinct and diverse movesets, and you may be surprised with which weapon speaks to you the most. For one, I prefer the Eternal Spear and the Aegis. But I'm really excited to do some more runs with the twin fisticuffs. Now, progressing at first, you begin to ask yourself, Self, how in the Hades am I going to get through here? Well, I'm glad you asked, because as you get over each hurdle, more aspects begin to unfurl. One of the primary sources of power creep is going to come from the Mirror of Night. As you go floor to floor, you will collect a currency called Darkness you can use to unlock permanent passive upgrades at the Mirror of Night, such as more casts or bonuses during your run. One thing I wish I had known sooner is that as you begin to learn the rewards of each room, you will obtain items that you can gift to the gods and the demigods you meet along the way. Granting one of these to any person, you will be given an item. This item can also be equipped to help aid you in unique ways on your ascension from Hades. I highly recommend for early progression the Evergreen Acorn and eventually the top-tier Pierced Butterfly. Let me know in the comments which items you'd recommend for newcomers. As you slay bosses for the first time with each weapon, you will obtain scarce materials that would eventually be used to unlock upgrades on the weapon of your choice. To my knowledge, you cannot respect these, so test out the weapons on your ever-helpful training dummy. Now I just kind of blew through these upgrade systems and mechanics, but I do want to stress that this game eases you into everything. Each zone is a new challenge and another opportunity to learn. Most importantly, it is a chance to experiment with the Heavenly Boon system. This is one of my favorite designs in a game for replayability. As you progress, at times there's going to be symbols on doors, and it's for a god that will appear after you clear that room. This means that once the challenge has been cleared, you will be able to have access to one of 3 boons offered by that god. This adds so much complexity, and you can fine-tune and develop your strategy from here. To give an example, I used this shield for my first clear run. I picked up a boon from Zeus that made it so that my shield would bounce from multiple targets and damage them with a bolt of lightning. I then picked up a boon that would do the same thing for my casted abilities. I then centered my entire run on ensuring that I would buff my electricity damage. Now, I won't get into duo boons here, but still, there is complexity to these boons that offers immense diversity and strategic gameplay. No 2 runs will be the same. It is a masterful gameplay system that reminds me of the intense variety found with Diablo 3 and its Rift systems. Multiple people can have the same weapon, but with boons and alterations to different movesets, it can drastically alter your gameplay. This helps encourage experimentation and teaches players to not lock themselves into a single style of play. This is a speedrunner's Aphrodite dream. Conclusions. I have had many games hyped for me in the past, And I've eventually learned to never get my hopes up too much. I get it. People get excited about games, and then they click with them, and they want others to share that experience. But I was worried about Hades. So many people had said that it was one of the best games of last year. How could it ever live up to that hype? As usual, I'm pretty late to the party, and this game not only lived up to the hype, but it also exceeded it for me. Usually, one clear is enough for me to be satiated with roguelites. However, with Hades, this will enter into my regular routine of coming back to it time and time again. If you are still watching and wondering if Hades is a game you'd enjoy, then I'd highly encourage you to pick this epic up. It goes on sale, and the only bad thing about this game is that it doesn't have a physical copy. Curses. There's a spot on my shelf waiting for you, Hades. Thank you guys so much for watching to the end of today's video. Hades is at the top of Mount Olympus when it comes to roguelites, but definitely be ready to go through the fires of Tartarus to get to the top. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe and hit that notification bell so we can hang out again in the future. And until then, I'll see you guys next time.